Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're tuning in today, because we're going to unpack something that, well, let's face it, almost all of us desperately need right now. We're exploring a highly poetic, deeply resonant concept by J.M. Caniago, and it's all centered around one fascinating idea: intentional rest and recovery. The source material we're looking at today is a lyrical piece called I'm Officially Hibernating. But listen, we aren't just talking about taking a quick 20-minute nap on the couch here. We're talking about a deliberate, structured, micro-journey of rest. We're going to break down exactly how this text maps out the process of stepping away from the daily chaos of life and why it absolutely matters.
The author actually declares right from the start, I am retreating to a quiet space of rest, leaving behind the world's demands and noise. Boom. Right out of the gate, it establishes this incredibly powerful, unapologetic tone. Just think about the profound contrast here between our modern burnout culture and this deliberate choice to just step away. We live in a world where the average person checks their phone literally over 100 times a day. Our inboxes are never empty, and the lines between the office and the living room completely gone. We're so conditioned to believe we've got to always be on, always grinding. But this text offers a defiant alternative. Retreating isn't giving up, it's a strategic, active move to find that quiet space and intentionally leave all that noise at the door.
So before we go any further, honestly ask yourself, are you desperate for a break from the demands of the modern world? Do you feel that noise ringing in your ears right now? Does the idea of just disappearing for a little while sound, well, incredibly appealing? Because if it does, the framework we're about to look at is going to be so valuable for you. Okay, let's dive into this and see exactly how Caniago maps out this escape. All right, our explainer today is broken into a few key phases of this micro-journey. Let's kick things off with Section 1, retreating from the noise or leaving the demands behind. This first step is really all about recognizing the overwhelming problem of the outside world and taking active, intentional steps to escape it. The text brilliantly sets up this core conflict for us. On one hand, you've got the external environment, right? The world's demands and noise. It's a world the author describes as constantly spinning. It's chaotic, it's dizzying, it's exhausting. But on the flip side, we have the desired internal peace. Instead of all that noise, we get a quiet space of rest. Instead of a rapidly spinning world, it's a slow, steady stream. The contrast is heavy, and it's super intentional. You can't be in both spaces at once. To get to that slow stream, you have to actively detach from the spinning world. And a huge part of making that transition is removing the specific triggers of that spinning world. The author points out this deep desire for, quote, no ticking of clocks and no hurried sound. I mean, time is arguably the biggest demand the modern world places on us, isn't it? Let's be real, how often does your wrist vibrate just to tell you to stand up or remind you that you're 5 minutes late for a Zoom call? We are entirely tethered to our schedules. By removing that ticking clock, the author is completely escaping those rigid structures and time constraints. There's zero deadline in the space, and that is exactly what allows the retreat to become truly meditative. You aren't just squeezing in a strict 15-minute break before your next meeting. You are granting yourself permission to exist entirely outside of time itself.
Which brings us to the next phase of our journey. Section 2, going off the grid and establishing strict boundaries.
Now, I want to slow down our pacing just a bit here, because it is one thing to want a quiet space, but it's another thing entirely to actually secure it in a world that constantly demands your attention. So how does the author pull off this timeless quiet space? Through incredibly firm, uncompromising boundaries. The text lays out 3 very concrete physical steps the narrator takes to separate from that spinning world. Step 1, locking up the doors. This is a literal physical barrier against the outside. Step 2, hitting the hay. Basically surrendering to the physical necessity of sleep and bodily comfort. And step 3, going off the grid, into the great unknown. That means decisively severing the digital and social ties that keep us chained to all those demands we were just talking about. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how fiercely protected these boundaries actually are. These aren't just poetic lyrics, they are highly actionable life rules for peace. Take, don't wake me for the storm. That means even if there's a crisis outside, let it pass. I can't fix it right now, and I'm choosing not to absorb that panic. Don't call me on the phone is a literal demand for communication silence. And let the temp drop down represents this radical acceptance of the changing environment outside without feeling that exhausting need to control or manage it. The narrator is guarding their peace with absolute conviction.
So all of these steps lead us to a brand new definition of the word at the very center of this text.
When Kaneko says I'm officially hibernating, we are definitely not talking about animal biology or bears sleeping in a cave. Based entirely on the text, we're redefining hibernating as a deliberate human act of letting it go. It's hiding in the shadows, specifically to collect joys and safely escaping the great unknown. It's an intentional, structured act of self-preservation, and this is absolutely key. It is not lazy. It is profoundly purposeful.
Once those boundaries are firmly set, we enter the deepest part of the retreat. Section 3, finding peace in darkness, or embracing the winterized dream. I want you to just take a deep breath and imagine stepping into this space with the narrator, a descent into a deep, beautifully protected state of rest. The imagery here is so incredibly evocative, wrapped up so deep in a winterized dream, with dreams as my guide and the darkness my friend. Normally in literature, right, darkness and winter are symbols of fear, coldness, or bleak isolation, but here, the author flips that standard symbolism completely on its head. Winter becomes a thick, insulated blanket. Darkness isn't something to be afraid of. It's a welcome friend. It gives you cover, safety, and a much-needed break from the blinding, harsh lights of the demanding world. And dreams become the guide. Logic is put on pause, and intuition and subconscious rest take the steering wheel.
In this dark, winterized dream, we find the ultimate environment of rest. Just look at these elements from the text. Safe in the rhythm, moving steady and slow, letting the days pass, letting the north winds blow. The narrator is intentionally handing control over to nature. When you let the north winds blow, you aren't trying to fight the weather. You're accepting it from a place of total warmth and safety. You're finding your ultimate security not by micromanaging the chaos, but by settling into a much slower, natural rhythm and simply letting life happen outside your locked door. And that naturally brings us to our final phase, Section 4, ready to awaken and mend. But of course, winter doesn't last forever, and neither does this retreat. We have to remember that this isolation, this off-the-grid boundary setting, it isn't a permanent escape from reality. It has a very specific goal, and the author spells it out perfectly. Resting until I am ready to awaken and mend. So the crucial point is that this version of hibernation is a temporary, restorative process. It's strictly meant to heal. You retreat, you lock the doors, and you let go entirely, so that you can gather the massive amount of strength required to mend yourself. You step away from the spinning world so that when you finally do unlock that door and walk back outside, you're whole again, repaired, and genuinely ready to re-engage with life.
As we wrap up this journey, I want to turn this concept back over to you. Take a look at your own life and your own spinning world. What specific demands will you leave behind to collect your joys? Can you turn off your phone for just one evening? Can you ignore the ticking clock for an afternoon and exist totally outside of your schedule? How can you apply Kaneko fierce boundary-setting techniques to carve out your own quiet space of rest? We all have storms raging outside our doors, but we also all have the power to turn the lock.
I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to take away from our explainer today. When was the last time you allowed yourself to officially hibernate without guilt? And I don't mean just taking a quick break while stressing about your massive to-do list, but truly, deeply resting until you were ready to awaken and mend. Maybe it's time to lock the doors, let the north winds blow, and finally let it go. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I highly encourage you to find your own quiet space this week.